Hi, everyone. This is strange. I can't see anyone who's in the audience, but I'm just going to have to get used to that, I think. So, hi, I'm Ben. I'm here to talk to you about channels and the reasons you might use them. I work for Telefonica. I look after the wholesale products. That includes our messaging, our carrier billing, and our digital identity products. But this is predominantly messaging. That's why we're here. So, I was asked to come and present on a subject that I find interesting. That's also messaging related. Just a bit of background. I spent the last two and a half years launching RCS. So what I want to do is tell you how great RCS is and why you should all be using it. But I'm aware that it's not the only messaging product. So what I try to present here is how you should choose how you talk to your customers. I've produced what I think is a balanced view, but please let me know if you think I've missed things or if you think it's unfair. Choosing the right messaging channel for the right reason. Here we go. So when I wrote this title, I realized that actually, I think before you start doing something, you should know why you're doing it. So we should start with the reason you're communicating, work backwards through the channels that you have, and end up with the choices that you can make. So if we think about why you communicate with your customers, some of you will have seen either of these models before. We use them at O2 in different parts of our business to decide where someone is in a conversion journey and at what point we should be interacting with them and how we should be doing that. From a very early age, my first job was working for Marks and Spencer, and they sell clothes, and everyone else on the high street sells clothes. And it was drilled into me that it's not just the thing that you're selling, but how you're selling it that matters. And people buy service as well as the product. That's translated into my role now, and messaging is a key way for you to make sure that your customers are getting good experience. And every touch point you have is part of the relationship that you have with your customer. So whether it's attract, engage, conversion, retention, you know what these words are, whether it's PR, emails, your web shop environments, all these things are all examples of interactions. And my view is that they should be looked at holistically, and you should have one common conversation with your customer, because every touch point is a part of the product you offer. It's not just what you do, it's how you do it that matters. So if we move on to, these are some of the reasons why you might communicate with the customer. I think it's worth having a look at what the purpose behind those interactions is. So we use jobs to be done. And I think this is a really good way of trying to work out what problem you're trying to solve or what pain point you're trying to alleviate. And if you think quite clearly, quite concisely about the thing that's you're trying to achieve, you can move forwards through what consideration you need to make, and then find the best solution for that problem. So as some examples here I put on the slides, you will have things that your business is trying to do and things that your consumers are trying to do. So if we step through, your business may be trying to raise awareness or tell your story, trying to generate leads and excite customers, responding to inbound customer questions, or requesting insight or involvement from your customers there. There's a mixture of outbound and inbound activity. There's also a mixture of one-to-many and one-to-one conversations. So are you broadcasting, or are you really, truly talking to one customer about one thing? All these things wrapped up are going to be reasons why you might change your communication strategy. And then also from the customer side, they're going to inquire about products, they're going to buy things, they're going to use things, they're going to ask for help or maybe raise complaints. They're going to share their views and review products, which may not be directly towards you, maybe to their friends and family. And they're also going to rebuy or renew their subscriptions. And again, this is a mixture of inbound, outbound, and perhaps adjacent communication types, and a mixture of one-to-one, one-to-many. So all these things we have to consider when we're thinking about the reasons that we communicate with our customer, and that feeds into what the options are. Now, I was putting this deck together, and I'm aware that it's part of the emerging technology track, and I wanted to go quite hard on the why we bother with communication, visual and written, and I thought I had to keep pairing it back to it's about apps, and it's about messages, and it's about technology, and the next section is more about that. But if we think, bearing in mind why we're doing it, let's make sure we solve the problem rather than find a use for the technology, which is what we keep trying to tell people. Doesn't matter that it's shiny. If it doesn't have a purpose, no one cares. So next section we have are the channels. So we know the reasons why we're doing things. What channels do we have to choose from? Now, Everywhere that you can talk to your customer, I would consider a channel. Some of you will have bricks and mortar shops. I expect every one of you has a website. Some of you might use web conferencing to talk to your customers. Some of you will have personal face-to-face interactions. Obviously, there's still the voice channel. We don't really talk much about that here, but that exists. I've got Twitter here called out separately, and I'll cover why I've done that separately slightly later. There's good old mail post. I've used the Chrome browser here to indicate the internet. People have internet presences that sit alongside websites. There's obviously messaging, and then there's email. So all the channels you've got, and you might have yourself a channel strategy for different things you're doing. We're only really talking about messaging here. Here's my nice orange block to indicate that's what I'm talking about. Please do let me know in the questions if you're expecting anything else. That's the idea. So if we step into now, first a little story. I was asked to look at RCS for O2 in 2018 because we saw a threat from WhatsApp. We had a couple of reports from our customers. WhatsApp said they can do these things. Can you do these things? We think this might be interesting. What do you think? And we started looking at it. We realized that we've been as a carrier, a bit lazy around our messaging and options we were giving to the market. And SMS has been there for a number of years, and we should be doing something new and interesting. That's when we started our journey on RCS. That's a whole different presentation, I think. But one of the things that we came up with during our journey was a vision. And this is what we came up with here. So what we wanted to do was make messaging a business as enjoyable as talking to a friend. So it should be seamless, it should be easy, it should be feature rich, it should be engaging, it should be where you want your communication to be. You should have a choice, all these things about what you do today. We want to do that in businesses. And then someone pointed out this picture. For those of you who don't know, this is a picture I've stolen from XKCD, which is a webcomic written by a guy called Randall. And I thought it was a really good snapshot in time of how many different ecosystems people use for person-to-person messaging. So this is all P2P, there's no A2P in here at all, and it's complex. And I thought, actually, I do some of these things. I have WhatsApp groups, I have iMessage conversations, and some of these are here quite obscure. I don't have Google Doc conversations, but I guess some people do. And we wanted our vision to not be quite that complex, be as enjoyable, but not as disparate. We need to be raising awareness, but also then converting on things that make sense. And I was doing some research for this presentation, and I was reading different reports about what the industry already thought. And I found this nugget, which is good. So 94% of presumably the people watching this presentation, CX professionals, believe that communication is more important, digital engagement is more important now than it was a year ago. 94%. And a year isn't a very long time. Now, the report that I found this was commissioned by a company who sell customer experience. So it's probably worth taking this with a pinch of salt. But I think everyone can agree here that conversational experiences are the way forwards. They will help. We just need to make sure we're doing them the right reasons, for the right reason. So what channels do we have in the UK? Now, here's some stats. I tried to chart the number of people that are on our messaging platforms. And here I'm talking about the big ones you've heard of, and my slide will reveal what they are. And I plotted the base size against the feature set and the richness of what you can do with them. So the first one's SMS. It's huge. The person who's on after me, Nick from Mobile Squared, will talk about base sizes in detail. So he is the expert there. I've stolen some of his headline figures. He knows I'm doing that, don't worry too much. 58 million people in the UK you can reach through SMS. But from a feature set point of view, it's fairly limited. It's 160-ish characters. It's predominantly one way if you're trying to send from an alpha tag. But you can get to everybody. That's a benefit. What have we got next? Next, WhatsApp. So about 39 million in the UK. Slightly more interesting feature set than SMS. You can put some pictures in there, but it doesn't have buttons or suggested replies yet. Not as many people as SMS, so more features, lower base size. We've also got Facebook Messenger. So 24 million people, lower than the other two, but more features, arguably. Facebook have put a lot of time and effort into their bot platforms and their integration with the pages that you can see. You can buy things on some through some Facebook bots. They have automated replies, that kind of stuff. We also have iMessage, which some of you will think is predominantly P2P, but actually we'll come on to in detail. But Apple are moving squarely into the use our channels for business communication marketplace as well. They've got about 30 million people that are able or reachable through that channel. That's predominantly the number of iPhones that exist in the UK. And we have my beloved RCS, which looks a bit like this. So I've grouped together SMS and RCS as carrier messaging because that's what they are. We've got about 12 million people in the UK now across EE, Vodafone, 3, and our network O2. About 12 million people that you can reach through RCS. But the feature set is right at the top end. We've got suggested responses, we've got carousels, we've got date pickers, we've got appointment reminders. You can do all kinds of things inside it. But at the moment, admittedly, the base isn't as big as some of the other players. And until Apple come on board with the standard, the maximum we're going to achieve is about half the country, if we consider that the smartphone base is about 50-50 in the UK. So we will see the carrier messaging get a bunch of new features, a bunch of new base sizes, but we're probably going to end up around where that Apple symbol is on that chart. Again, so we're building the base. We've got the features. We just need to make sure now that it happens. And I guess I should apologize on behalf of O2 a little bit. We were late to the market, but we are ramping our users now. We are deploying RCS to all of the Samsung handsets we can, and we have a view to making it easier for the Esendexes of the world to support you guys with business messaging on our network as quickly as we can. What do we have next? Next, you have each of the. Please do send in questions. By the way, it was mentioned at the start of the call, but if you have anything, if I'm going too fast, please let me know. Now we have a quick section on Apple Business Chat. So if you're an iMessage user, you may have had an experience where you've talked to a brand. You may not, but this is open. Apple launched this in 2017. It's been quite a slow burner. The world's been a very strange place the last 18 months, I guess. But inside iMessage, businesses can build inbound, predominantly, messaging experiences. So there's some pictures here. I'm sure we'll share the slides afterwards so you can read in detail. But you can file share, you can book appointments. They have list selections, so you can select from a list of different sizes of t-shirt, for example. You can vote on things. It's got Apple Pay built in. So if you want to collect payment, you can do that through iMessage, as long as they have Apple Pay set up. You can deep link into different parts of your application. Send one message. Obviously, you can do some things in message flows, but some things that might be a bit more intertwined, you might push out to the app. Or they supply a customization framework. So if it's a simple thing like perhaps booking a seat on a plane, you as a developer can build that into the messaging flow so that customers have one view of what they need to do. I think this is really good. It's nice to see that handset manufacturers or software providers are caring about these kind of interactions. It's got really strong discovery through Siri Maps Safari. So when I say discovery, I mean how does a customer find the brand's contact information? How do they start the conversation with you? You don't pick up the phone and know the phone number to dial. You go to the phone book in the past. You might go to Google now, or you might just search in your phone. I want to talk to this company. Press the button, start the conversation. This enables that really smoothly. But it doesn't, at the moment, support outbound campaigns. So Apple have a consumer-first strategy or an approach. So if a consumer wants to talk to a business, they absolutely can, but you can't market through this channel to your base. Question is, I got the nice flow now. So how far? Everyone has an app method. Interesting question. I think, let me just make sure I've read that properly. How far away do we think are people? I think it's already happening, Richard. I think there are already some apps that people don't love, that they don't use. They use them once. Things like boarding passes. I have to get the EasyJet app to get a boarding pass. I don't want the app. I just want the pass. Those will get replaced. I don't think a banking app will ever get replaced, because that's the core part of the function they provide to me. Back to the earlier touch points, my current account is the product that they give to me, I guess. But actually, the experience of me being able to use a current account is the thing that keeps me there, and that's in the application. So I think we'll see a split. There will see people that see apps as part of their product rather than a way to get eyes on their product. They will stay there, and some people will move. We're not at the stage where messaging channels are used enough for us to say you don't need your apps anymore, but I think we're going there. I'll guess 18 months, not sure. Definitely, I think we're going there though. What am I doing for time? 12 minutes, right? Let's zoom on to, oh yeah, discovery. Click this button here, start the conversation. I missed that one. So Apple are doing great on their messaging, and I think people that have iMessage that are inside little iOS bubbles with their friends and family think it's good. Up until recently, the messaging experience on Google has been really fragmented, on Android, I should say. Each OEM had their own app. They all did boring SMS. Google tried with Hangouts, with Allo, with Google Circles, a bunch of different messaging products, and didn't really nail it. They have now. So they've adopted RCS as a standard for P2P interactions, person-to-person interactions. They've worked with carriers, they've worked with the manufacturers of handsets, and now RCS is in every Android phone. So it adds the groups, the typing indicators, all the P2P stuff. They've integrated with Google Assistant. So you can be having a conversation with one of your friends or family, pop up an Italian restaurant. You can click on the name of that, and the assistant will say, do you want to book a table? It does some really, really cool stuff. Obviously, it's turned on RBM or RCS business messaging for us, which we love, which is great. It's building our base of users. They're really investing heavily in this ecosystem, and you can see every month the new features coming out. They recently talked about end-to-end encryption for P2P conversations, just to keep rivaling the iMessage experience there. And they've also tried to solve discovery. So Apple have done it, at least, well, they're on the way. But you search for things in Google, maybe in Google Search, maybe in Maps, and they have this message button here. And I went on a slide on that, so I won't steal my own thunder, but they are working on discovery as well. Let's quickly touch on WhatsApp. So if you're a small office or a home office, sometimes these businesses are called micro SMEs. I think that's offensive, but small businesses, you can use WhatsApp Business, which is just another app on your phone. You can send and receive messages. There's some templated replies, but it's really designed for a person typing on a phone. It doesn't really scale very well. But for everyone else, WhatsApp have their API. And I'm pretty sure you can buy this through Esendex. I hope you can. I think you can. So API-based messaging, it's very similar to the way that SMS works today. You code everything up. You can send your messages out. Much easier to integrate than having to type on the phone. They're supporting templated messages. So you can give once alerts. You can offer out offers or discounts and change some of the words in there. So the name of a customer or the price of the product, perhaps. And there are flat fees for those types of messages. They're supporting inbound customer service journeys. So if someone has chosen to use WhatsApp to talk to you, you can have that conversation over their channel. They've got an evolving feature set. I'm trying to be kind here. There's no payment at the moment in the UK. There are no suggested responses or replies. There's no carousels. It's basic messaging, but through APIs, it's still really good. Still got a big bunch of users in the UK. They've got a large base, so positive for them. Consumers are familiar with the brand. If you say WhatsApp me, people know what that is. It's very tightly integrated with other Facebook surfaces, so or Instagram. So if you're on Facebook and you're looking for a business, you can hit the message me button and message them, and it might take you into WhatsApp to do that instead of on Facebook Messenger, and the same on Instagram. However, from a broadcast perspective, at the moment, unless you've worded your opt-ins not specifically, you don't have permission to talk to your customers through this channel. You might have permission to email them and to text them, but you probably don't have permission to send a WhatsApp to them. So the base is massive, but your opt-ins probably make it smaller for outbound communication. And recently we've seen customers move away a little bit from WhatsApp because of some confusion around what their terms and conditions actually mean. A question: to receive WhatsApp business messages, the customer need a different app. In addition, the business user needs a separate app. The consumer doesn't. So as a consumer, I can send to friends and family or to businesses through one WhatsApp application, but the business receiving that needs a separate application on their phone. Google My Business. So I talked about discovery. So Google are doing a load of good stuff in messaging. They're doing a load of good stuff in maps and discovery, but at the moment they're not tied up. So they're working with the carriers and the OEMs on messaging. We are trying to prevent this from being a problem. So at the moment, if you go into Google Maps and you message a business, that message lives inside the Maps app, like your messaging app. And customers aren't going to go back to that thread to have another conversation. And you can't outbound message those customers in that channel. So we need to do a bit of work to make this work properly. Excellent discovery, inbound only. You can't broadcast to match users. And yeah, customers might not follow up with those conversations that you've had. So hasn't hit all the nails on the head yet for me. I'm gonna have to go real quick now. So I've included in-app and web chat here for a comparison of what I think is good and bad about these channels, because whilst they're not really messaging applications, they are ways you communicate with your customers. So we've got inbound. Yes, everything supports inbound communication. Outbound, not as obvious. So no on Apple Business Chat for starting conversations. Possible through WhatsApp, but check your opt-ins. Not possible through Google Messages, business messages. And in-app and web chat, the situation is a little bit different, but you can push through in-app to start conversations. Brandable, pretty much everything apart from SMS is brandable to a lesser or greater extent. Again, the features that we have in RCS, Apple Business Chat, are great. WhatsApp is on a road for improvement. Given that they control the application and the platform, I think this will come quite quickly. Only some of them are native, so SMS, RCS, Apple Business Chat, native. Everything else, you need another application. Penetration, we talked about this previously. SMS is everybody, RCS is growing. ABCs are limited to Apple phones. WhatsApp's obviously high. And then in-app and web chat, I think they're limited based on the use cases you have there. So if someone has your application, you can chat with them. That's great. If they don't, you've got no choice. And discovery, I have to call out here, RCS is letting us down a little bit. It's not easy to talk to a business, to start a conversation with the business in RCS. At the moment, you have to tell the business you want to talk to them and have them start the conversation. Once that channel's open, it's free flowing, but that bit at the start's a bit tricky. Okay, there's your options. How do we choose? Unfortunately, I don't have a silver bullet for you. But what I have come up with is some suggestions on how you can choose which messages to use in which scenarios. So if you think about what the reason is to be done, any considerations about who you're talking to, any my customers like this channel, or I can't talk about these things for these reasons, will produce your best option. As long as you follow this structure, I think you'll come up with some good ideas. So some worked examples: urgent service message about an outage. Get it to everyone as quickly as possible. Make sure they can read it. Use the thing that has the most reach. Basic, easy SMS. Converting customers during a sales campaign. Well, you have to talk to them wherever they are. What's the value of the conversion? So if it's, I convert one customer and I make £1 million, well, you're going to spend some money on that campaign. If it's not, then maybe you use a low-cost channel and you just accept whatever pull-through you get. Crucially here, what permission do you have? So are you allowed to use that channel to message them? Here I think SMS, RCS, and WhatsApp, because of the outbound nature, is a good idea for you. Upsell customers after a purchase. This is probably based on which communication channel the purchase came from, because it would be strange if I'm talking to you through email, for example, just only email, and I've bought something from you, for you to then send me a text message about an upsell. My communication channel is email. But here, I think from a messaging point of view, RCS and WhatsApp are what you would need. Supplying generic customer information, so opening times, contact information or website addresses, that kind of stuff, basic questions. Automate that as much as you can and try not to have to pay for it. Some of these channels are price per message, and some of them are open, like Facebook, for example. Have a think about how you can automate those things and respond to customer queries. And then there might be some things that have one job to be done, but based on the target market considerations or the customer type, have different solutions. So collecting overdue payment from a customer, for example, you might have some customers that prefer to not talk to people, so automate it. You might have some customers that are a bit sticky, a bit tricky, that need a voice conversation. Give them a phone call. Voice still exists. It's still a thing. But again, just using this, just some worked examples. Think about why you're doing it, what considerations you have, and then what the options are. And then I think I have another picture for you. No silver bullet, but we can find a silversmith. So there's no one size fits all, but there are companies that can help you, making sure that you are using the right channel for the right reason. So here's another picture I found that explains this for me really, really, really well. If I'm talking to a business and I go into a store, and then I know too are really guilty of this. We do this really badly. I go into a store and I want to change my bill. I have to make a phone call to the call center agents. I should be able to do it from one interface. I'm a really strong advocate of omni-channel. Your customer shouldn't matter which channel they use to talk to you. You should know who they are, and they should get a consistent experience. So the more omni you can be, the better. Pick and choose a channel for the right purpose, and you can only do that if you have as many of them open as possible. And now I'm out of time. So that was a whistle-stop tour of what I had to talk to you about. I'm here for as many questions as you could fit into the next, I think I've got 15 minutes with you. But before we do that, I've got another slide that says, any more questions? So I'll put that one up there and answer the one from Andrew, and then we can do a bit more conversation. Laura, can the participants talk, or is it just chat we're using for questions? Sorry, I put you on the spot there. You might not be on the stage.
I can hop on the stage. That's absolutely fine. Andrew, if you want to come and talk to us, we're more than happy to answer your question on potentially migrating into using some of our solutions products, because they will definitely help with looking at integrating RCS and SMS and potentially email, which sounds like it's what you're using at the minute most.